Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2022 horror film Christmas, Bloody Christmas, a film that is written and directed by Joe Begos, and it stars Riley Dandy, Sam Dealish, Jonah Ray, Jeff Daniel Phillips, and Abraham Ben Ruby. Right, the film focuses on Riley Dandy's character, Tori Toombs, who she's got her own business. It's like a cool record store. It's on Christmas Eve. She wants to hang out with some friends, get drunk, have sex, do all them things that young people do. And there is a robotic, homicidal Santa on the loose that decides to target her and her friends and anybody it comes across to cause plenty of bloody Christmas mayhem. Right, what are my thoughts on Christmas, Bloody Christmas? Well, the idea and the concept of this, I think, is excellent. A psychotic, robotic Santa Claus. What is not to like there? So the concept is absolutely sound here, I think. The execution here is a little bit mixed. Now, the director, Joe Begos, brought us that film, was it last year or the year before, with Stephen Lang and Martin Cove and other people, VFW, you know, that quite violent action film with these war veterans fighting off the youth. It was quite good. I've actually just recently added that to my collection. So, you know, he knows how to kind of do kind of violent action horror flicks like this. And I think much of this film, I think, is shot very nicely. It's very stylized, nicely lit, lots of nice colours, some inventive, brutal kills. But I think for me, where this film falls down almost drastically is the setup. Because we are introduced to a barrage of characters who are deeply unlikable. With some really cringy dialogue, lots of swearing and crude dialogue that just make all the characters, including the lead character Tori, quite unlikable. There's nobody in this film I can remember thinking, you know, I'm rooting for them. Now, this Tori character, who is obviously set up from the start to be this really strong, independent woman, runs her own business, you know, very forthright, very assertive, all this kind of stuff. She's obviously, you know, going to be the final girl, I suppose you could say, in this film. And she's a very strong character, very determined, and absolutely. But I just don't. I think they missed a mark in the sense of they just, for me, didn't make her particularly likable or anybody else in this film. And it's one of those films as well that if you think about it too much, you'll be kind of like, nope, that don't make no sense. You know, there's these psychopathic robotic Santa Clauses that, what purpose do they serve other than, you know, they're in these department stores. You know, they've got military grade equipment in them. They must have been so expensive, it's unbelievable. What is the point of them? They don't make any sense at all. So it's one of those films, the more you think about it and the more you watch the film, especially when you see this stuff that this robotic Santa can do and come back from, you kind of like, I think the military would have been actually better placed, you know, sending, you know, 1,000 of these robotic Santas into a war zone, you know, and imagine, you know, the lives they would save, and the enemy would have no chance. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, but basically, the concept of this film is exactly this. It's the Terminator crossed with Small Soldiers. If you remember that film Small Soldiers, you know, when that military tech was put in the toys and they came alive. Essentially, it's the same thing, but this military tech is in a, you know, life-size robotic Santa Claus that comes alive, and, you know, and then you start thinking, why is it targeted her? Doesn't make a lot of sense as to why it's targeted her. It just kind of sets her sights on her and just follows her. And again, it's one of those films where wherever she is, it turns up. It's not like the Arnold Terminator, you know, where it does some detective work to try and figure out where she's gone or where she could be. It just turns up wherever she is, whether it be at a police station, whether it be in someone's house, whether it be in a hardware store. It's always there. It always knows where she is, sort of thing. So the logic of the film makes zero sense. However, once this film kicks into gear, it is wonderfully gory, exciting, original, fun, entertaining. You know, it's hard to fault the second half of this film in regards to delivering an absolutely bonkers robotic Santa Claus horror film. It's wonderfully entertaining and supremely gory as well. I didn't expect it to be just as violent and gory as it turned out. I mean, there's some really gory kills in this. It's fun and it's entertaining. And you could argue it even gets to the point where it gets a little bit frustrating because, you know, you get to the point where you're kind of thinking, well, even if they ran over this thing with a tank, it'd still get up. I'm not kidding. It was more durable, this thing, than the actual Terminator. And it looked a bit dumb as well. And what I mean by that is, when it was stood in the store and it's turning its head to look at people, it is essentially a man in a suit. It doesn't look robotic in any way, shape or form. It just looks like a guy in a Santa suit. And as the film goes on and it degrades and it gets damaged and stuff, then you start seeing the more robotic side of it. But initially, when it's just stood in the department store, you're just kind of like, well, you could have made it look a little bit robotic. It just looks like a man in a lifelike man in a suit. So again, it makes you think, well, these things must have cost a bloody fortune. So don't think too much about this film because it'll annoy you. If you can get past the annoying characters and the pretty terrible dialogue here and there, and you can get to the point where Santa starts swinging his axe, so to speak, then you're probably going to find this film fairly fun and entertaining. I certainly did. I just wish if it had been a little bit better written and some more memorable characters, I think that would have easily elevated the score of this, because it's undeniably quite an entertaining film. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.